when I turned to my left, the window was right there. And in the window was just an outline with red eyes, and its head was tilted, and it was just standing there looking. That feeling came so strong. Uh, I had only felt that feeling one other time, and it was total and utter fear. My name is Angie Unruh, and I got interested in Bigfoot, well, probably from my childhood, being a child of the 70s. It was on a lot of TV shows back then. And so I've kind of always known about it. Um, but I did have some strange things that happened and kind of led me down the Bigfoot path.
So how long was it from the time that you began to see some shows on TV and such? How long a period of time was it before you actually had your own experiences?
Well, my first experience with Sasquatch, it was long before any TV shows were on. And that's why I didn't know what was going on with my first experience. Um, it wasn't until probably when the TV show Finding Bigfoot and the subsequent shows came on is when I started actually learning stuff about it. But I had already had before then probably one or two instances before all that started happening. And so, like I said, the shows helped me figure out what was happening.
Yeah, I understand. So how old were you when your very first incident happened?
I was roughly the age of 16, 17.
And what happened during that experience?
So that experience was fast, like most of them are. I was living here in Arkansas. I live in Northwest Arkansas, and I was living in a mobile home at the time. And it wasn't far from the lake. I could actually walk to the lake in about 5 minutes. Behind our house, I call it a house, our trailer, was a big mountain. It was pretty steep. It hadn't been developed. It was just raw land. And so getting to my sighting, when in the summertime, we'd always sleep with the windows open, just to help keep the house cool, get the breeze going. That particular night, my stepsister was visiting, so she was sleeping with me. We had a big old king giant water bed from back in the 80s. And we were just in bed sleeping. The room was dark. The windows were open for the air to come through. And I don't know why. I guess maybe something inside of me, my subconscious, woke me up. All I know is I woke up and I sat up in bed. My stepsister slept through the whole thing. Sat up in bed, turned to my left. And when I turned to my left, the window was right there. And in the window was just an outline of a head with red eyes, and its head was tilted, and it was just standing there looking. And I just sat there and I just froze. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what I was looking at. It was just terrifying. And then in a blink of an eye, it was gone. Now, looking back, well, I shouldn't even say looking back, the head that I saw, and it was just the head, it was at the top of the window, which was roughly around 9 feet. And, I knew right then it wasn't a person because no person is going to be standing that tall. And obviously, we don't have red eyes. And so that's the only snapshot moment I have in my head. After that, the next morning, I told my mom and my stepsister what I had seen in the middle of the night. And, it was all, oh, no, you didn't. It was you were dreaming, you were asleep, you didn't see that, you're imagining things. And it's like, no, 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 I know what I saw. And not too long after that is when mom bought blinds and curtains for the windows. So we never had to have that happen again. But that was my sighting. It was quick, it was fast. I saw no features. I just saw the black head outline with the red eyes.
And I realize you didn't know for sure what it was you were looking at, but how did you emotionally respond? Was it a frightening experience? Was it just numbing, shocking, no emotion at all? What happened?
You know, to this day, I don't remember the emotions I was feeling at the time, all of them. I know I was scared. I know that I was motionless. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I just sat there staring. So it had to have been, all the above: fear, shock, terror, not confusion. But, it's just kind of a creepy thing when you wake up and something huge is at your window staring at you.
Hi, I'm Linda Eastburn of Linda Eastburn YouTube channel, and I have a new book out called Threshold to Encounters. It's about 40 years of research and experience with all of these wild cryptids that many of you I know have encountered yourself. You can find it on Amazon.com. When you
You know,
told your mom and your sister the next day,
yeah.
of course, they didn't believe you, but did anyone ever come around to saying the word Sasquatch or Bigfoot or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely not. No, no, no,
So it
no.
was just something that was large and really huge at the window and tall, and a dark form, with
Correct.
really strange red eyes.
Correct.
Describe those eyes to me. Were they glowing or were they emitting a light into the room? What do you remember about that?
I just remember it glowing. It wasn't like, laser beam shooting in the room or nothing. The eyes were just glowing. Like if you were to walk into the woods with the light and shine it, and you get eye shine, that's what it was. It was just red on its face, like it was just glowing on its own.
Was there any kind of light that would have been reflecting off of the being's eyes?
Sometimes we would sleep with the TV on and sometimes we wouldn't. I don't remember that particular night if the TV was on or not. I just remember the room being dark, but I don't remember if the TV was on. I don't think it was, but I can't be 100% sure on that.
Any smells coming in from that window?
Nope, no smells,
And any sound?
no sound.
Any
It was
idea
just there,
what woke
gone.
you up? That, do you think it was making some noise or just the idea of it being there?
I think just instinctively, I think when you're somewhere, somebody's staring at you, how you can just feel that. I just think my subconscious, while I was sleeping, felt something, and it just kind of woke me up. There was no sounds that I can remember. I just remember waking up, sitting up, and turning, and there it was.
And you said you'd had a couple of incidences before you were correlating or connecting the dots basically, as
Yeah.
to what kind of experiences you're actually having. Um, what was your second experience?
Well, it kind of all. Okay, so I'll go there. So my second experience was up in Southwest Harbor, Maine, totally different part of the United States from here in Arkansas. And that was terrifying. And that's what really set me on the path of what is going on. And from that experience, it made me flash back to other things. And I started tying things together. And I was like, oh, oh, that's what's going on. Okay. So it kind of ties into the sighting I had. But let me tell you my second experience. So I was up in Southwest Harbor, Maine. This was 2 years ago. I had gone up there to stay for a month on my own. I have bad seasonal allergies, and it's to the point now where I have to leave Arkansas. It's because the allergies are so bad. So I went up to Maine where everything was still frozen in April to get away from the allergies. And so I had rented a house, either through Verbo, Airbnb, one of those companies, and got to the house. My husband came up with me to help get me settled in. And I got there at I wrote myself some notes, so I wouldn't get my timeline screwed up. So I got to the house about April 1st, and my husband, like I said, was with me. We We did all the typical tourist stuff. Everything was great. Nothing out of the ordinary. He leaves at about April 3rd or 4th. He has to come back to Arkansas. So now I'm here at the house alone up in Maine. I don't know anybody. I'm just there to get away from the allergies. So on April, let me see what it was. April 5th was the first time something weird happened. So just a couple days after being there, I was sitting on the couch at night and everything, like I said, everything was fine. I had all the windows drawn, because after the whole incident with the Sasquatch back in my teens, I've always at night close all the windows now. All the blinds get shut, all the windows get shut. You cannot see in or out. So that's just my habit. So I did that through the house up there. And so I was safe and secure and watching TV all by my lonesome. And then just out of the blue, I just get this terror feeling. I was just terrified sitting on the couch. I'm like, what's come over me? What's going on? And it kind of stayed there for quite a while. And I was like, why am I so scared all of a sudden? And that feeling just kind of stayed with me, and it just came out of the blue. Now, there was one window in the house that did not have any type of curtains or blinds on it. It was by the back door, but it was actually the door that you use to go in and out of the house. So even though it was the back door, I consider it the front door. But so there was the back door, that huge round window, and then stairs to go upstairs to the bedrooms. And so that round window was the only window that was not covered. And when it was time to go to bed, I was petrified to pass that window. Now, the first 4 days had not been like that at all. There was no issues going up and down and passing that window. But now that I was there alone, I just had this overwhelmingly creepy, scared feeling. But I was just like, oh, Angie, who knows what, you must have thought something scary, and went on upstairs. All was good that night. That was the only thing. It was just weird that weird feeling happened just out of the blue. And so that was basically it that day. It was just one of those weird feelings. Same thing on April 9th. Same thing, sitting in the living room, watching TV, and nighttime comes, and that feeling came again.
So there had been quite a bit of time passed. You got there on the 1st of April.
Correct.
The 5th of April was your first terror experience, not knowing where they came from. And now
Correct.
you're all the way up to the 9th day of April,
Correct.
and it's returned again with no
Correct.
known reason as to why. Now, did you come and go from this house during this period of time?
Oh yeah, every day I was out doing little day trips. So during the daytime, everything was great. Had no weird feelings. I would just live my normal life. At nighttime, I would always get home before nightfall. And that way I could just get in for safety reasons. At this point, it wasn't because of the weirdness that was about to happen, because I didn't know what was about to happen. But it was just for safety reasons, just being a female alone in a strange place. I just wanted to get home before nightfall, get, locked in the house, be safe and secure. So April 5th was the first weird feeling. April 9th rolled around, same thing, sitting on the couch. Nightfall comes, all of a sudden that weird feeling comes again, just terrified. I'm like, what is going on? I'm just sitting on my couch watching TV. I've been fine all day. Why am I now scared? But same thing. Nothing happened. It was just an extremely terrifying feeling would come over me. And then same thing, when it was night, when it was time to go up to the bedroom, I had to pass that window. And it was just so scary passing that window, and I don't know why.
But you did. You would
But I
go
did.
ahead and go up the stairs and go to bed and
Correct.
all that. Did your feeling change after you got upstairs?
No, I was still petrified upstairs. And, I had all the blinds upstairs closed. Now, just a little back reference. So that window faced where I parked my car. It was in the backyard. So I parked my car there, even though that was the way that we came in and out. There was a little garage there that we were not allowed to use. It was freestanding. It was off on its own. And there was pine trees back behind there. So it was a wooded area. And that's where the direction that the window faced. And so, like I said, April 9th, that's what happened. Terrified. April 10th, the very next day, comes around. Everything's normal. But when I opened the door to go outside on the 10th, there's debris all over the back porch, which was not there the day before. And I was like, what is all this debris on the back porch? It was like sticks, like little twig sticks, not like big sticks, but just little twigs, and like algae, lichen type of stuff all over the back porch. And I hadn't even stepped out of the door yet. I had just opened the door and I saw it. And then I looked down and there was a rock that was placed at my doorstep right at the door. So the door opened from the inside. And so the rock was on that metal like threshold that they have on doors. It was on the metal threshold right there. You couldn't miss it. And I was like, there's debris. And then something placed a rock right at my door. And I was just like, what is this? What's going on? I'm like, a raccoon.
There hadn't been any kind of storm or rain or anything like that, or any kind of wind that could have blown all that stuff onto the deck?
Not that night. Now, there were other nights that was windy, but that night it wasn't. It was perfectly normal. It was still, no rain. And I was like,
how big was the rock?
Do you know those cutie tangerines that you can buy at the store?
Yes.
It was about that size. And it was just placed there. And I was like, what's putting a rock at my doorstep? And why is it all this debris on my patio, the back porch? I'm like, surely a human. Why would, if somebody saw me and knew I was here, why would they place a rock at my door? Why would they just knock on my door? Or of all things, a rock, a raccoon was not going to bring me a rock. So I was talking to my husband about that. And I'm like, honey, something left a rock at my door. I said, and there was all this like debris on the porch. He's like, well, that's weird. I'm like, I know. I'm like, what do you think could have done that? Now, at this time, I didn't know about, things being left for people. It was totally foreign to me. I had never heard that. And so I was like, what in the world's going on? And so, I just pick up the rock and I sweep off the porch. I throw the rock in the pine trees over where I park and, just take off for my day, thinking that's kind of weird. I'm feeling weird all the time. And now there's a rock at my door. And I was just trying to ponder what's going on. So that was on April 10th. April 11th, same thing. I was sitting on the couch at night. All of a sudden, that strange, weird feeling came over me again, just being terrified. April 12th, once again, it happened. And like I said, when it would come, it would stay. It wouldn't leave. I just felt just terrified in my own home. And
was it difficult to get to sleep with feeling that way?
It was getting to the point at this point where I dreaded sundown, because every night I was getting that terrified feeling. Now, mind you, like I said, I did not know anybody there. I had no form of protection. And I was ignorant of what was going on. I had not a clue. This time though, and let me see. So the rock was left on April 10th. I found it on April 10th. April 11th, I had the weird feeling. April 12th, I had the weird feeling. And then my family came to visit me. So my husband, my daughter, and her then fiance came up to Maine to spend about 4, 5, 6 days with me. And all the activities stopped during that time. I didn't have the weird feelings anymore. Nothing was being left anymore. even though that only happened one time, everything just stopped. And so I was telling my husband about it. He's like, oh, it had to be some sort of animal to bring the rocks up there. And you're just scared because you're here alone. And I'm like, okay, maybe. Okay, yeah. Even though in my gut, I didn't feel that that was right, but I needed some sort of rationalization, And so I just grabbed onto when he's like, yeah, it must be something else. Okay, it must be something else. So they end up going back home. And I don't know exactly, I never even really thought about it, but I don't know how much time elapsed from when they went home to when it started again. I'm thinking maybe a day or two. So on April 18th, once again, I was sitting on the couch and that overwhelming fear feeling came back. And I was like, what is going on? I mean, I know I'm sitting here just watching TV. I'm not thinking scary thoughts. I'm not watching anything scary. Why am I getting terrified? And then all of a sudden, from the kitchen, now I'm sitting in the living room. In the kitchen, I hear a loud bang. And I just sit there frozen. My eyes, I'm sure, were as big as saucers. My mouth is open. I'm like, what was that? And it came high. You could hear that it was like from up high when the bang happened in the kitchen. And I was like, oh my gosh, what? Something just slapped the house. Because there's no trees in the yard at all. Nothing is touching the house. The trees they had were far from the house. Nothing touched the house. And something slapped the wall hard and from up high. And I was petrified, absolutely petrified. I didn't want to look out the window. I didn't want to know what it was because, well, I was there alone. I mean, the lights were on, but I didn't want whatever outside to know that I was in there, especially alone at this point, because I didn't know if it was human or if it was something else. But I was thinking, it can't be a human being. That was high where that happened. And so I was just sitting there shaking in my boots going, what do I do? I didn't want to call the police just because I don't know. I was just scared. And if it wasn't a human, I was like, they're not going to believe me. Something first is leaving me a rock. Now the side of the house is getting slapped. I just didn't know what to do. That was really my first time ever being alone by and so I just, in hindsight, maybe I should have called the police. I didn't, but they probably would have just laughed at me anyways. But so that night the house got slapped. But that's all that happened that night. But that was still a lot. And so that happened on the 18th of April. The very next night, April 19th, I was sitting on the couch once again at nighttime. And so just so you have a layout of the living room, there's the couch, then there's a coffee table, then there's like a little, I don't know, 1.5 foot walkway, and then the TV was on the wall, and that wall on the other side was outside. So there was about a 4-foot gap from the couch to the wall. So that night, I'm sitting there on the couch watching TV, and just like practically every night, that strange feeling came back. I was just petrified sitting there again. And then all of a sudden, okay, so are you familiar with the wrought iron furniture? It's really heavy. It's usually pretty ornate. There's usually lots of scrolling, but it's black and it's iron and it's usually heavy. Do you know that patio furniture?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. They had that on the front porch. And it's heavy. I mean, if you're going to move it, you're going to hear it. So I'm sitting there and that weird feeling comes. I'm scared. All of a sudden I hear the furniture move. And I knew something was on the front porch. And once again, I'm just terrified. I'm frozen to the couch. I'm thinking, okay, what is out there moving that furniture? And it wasn't like you could hear it going across the whole patio. You just heard it go, it was about 2, 3 seconds of movement. But that furniture is so heavy. When it moves, it just doesn't scoot across. It kind of skips and jumps. So as it was moving, it was like doing its banging across the ground, the porch. And it only lasted for about 2 or 3 seconds, and then it stopped. But it was loud enough because it was literally on the other side of the wall from me. And I was just sitting there terrified, knowing something was out there.
Was
And I
it
just,
was it a concrete porch or was it a wooden
it
porch?
was a wooden porch.
Okay.
It was a wooden porch. And I could not bring myself to look out because there were the doors that lead out to the porch were glass sliding doors. And they had those long vertical blinds. And I just could not bring myself to leave the couch and look out the window. I just couldn't. I didn't want whatever was out there to see me. And that was the main thing. Even though I wanted to know what it was, I was too scared. But like I said, the main thing was I didn't want it to see me. Um, that was my thought in the moment, whether it was rational or irrational. I was just wanting just to hide. But it was obvious whatever was out there knew I was in there because the lights were on and it kept coming around. So it knew I was there, but I didn't want it to see me. And I was just petrified. At that point, I didn't know what to do. I just started praying. I'm a spiritual person. I believe in God. And I was just started praying for the Lord's protection because I just didn't know. There was just too many, at this point, it was almost half of a month of almost every night being petrified sitting on that couch. It was things being, the rock being left for me. It was the house being slapped. Now my furniture is being moved. And every time I had to walk past that window, my bones just wanted to jump out of my body. I mean, it was just terrifying. And I was just like, okay, I'm becoming a basket case. I know that sounds weird, but when you're so stressed out and it's a nightly occurrence, you just start dreading what's going to happen now, what's going to happen tonight type of scenarios.
Did you ever think about leaving and just, going back to Arkansas or wherever?
Well, I did think about that, but I knew in essence I couldn't, because if I came back to Arkansas, the allergies were still so high, I would be coming into the thing I was trying to escape. So I knew coming home wasn't going to be the answer, even though I wanted to. I wanted out of there. I wanted people with me. I wanted to feel safe because I did not feel safe at all. I was terrified. The house was already paid for. And so I didn't know if I could get a refund. I didn't know, I'm not made of money. And so in essence, could I have gotten a hotel somewhere else? I probably could have, but I just kept thinking to myself, place is paid for. It's paid for. I can't leave. That was kind of my rationale at the time. And so at this point, I'm like, all right, I've got to do something. So the next morning, which was April 20th, I go out and start walking around the yard. I first go out into the porch and I see the chair was moved a little bit, but not a lot. But like I said, I knew it didn't move a lot because I could hear how it skipped just a little bit. So it was moved, but there was nothing. No, there was no handprints, no footprints. I'm up on a deck. I'm up on a wood deck. There's just nothing. I walk down to the front yard, walk around the front yard looking for footprints. Now, at this point, I don't know what Sasquatch footprints really look like. I mean, I've seen the Patty, footage. I've seen the cast prints, but to see it in real life in the ground by yourself, I didn't know what I was looking for. I was just looking for, a footprint of some sort. But it was that type of, I don't know if you've ever been to Maine, but it's very squishy ground where I was. It's kind of like in the Pacific Northwest, when you're in the woods, how it's just that mossy, spongy ground. That's how the yard was. I didn't see anything. I go to the side yard, because that's where the side yard is where the side of the kitchen, side of the house that the kitchen's on. So I go over there to look to where the slap happened to see if I can see anything on the house. Don't see anything. Looking on the ground, don't see anything. Walk the whole house, around the house, nothing. But then again, like I said, I don't know what I'm looking for. I'm just trying to look for something. And I don't see anything. And that continued. The next night, April 22nd, sitting on the couch, once again, just that feeling of dread and fear came over me. Then for a couple of days, it stopped, but I still felt it. I think at this point now, it was becoming an expectation that it was going to come. And so now I think I'm actually now creating a little bit of it because just waiting for it to happen. It's like, okay, is it going to happen tonight? Is it going to happen tonight? What's going to happen tonight? Type of thing. And basically the last time I had the feeling was April 25th. Now that night, that feeling came so strong. I had only felt that feeling one other time, and it was total and utter fear. And it was stronger than all the other nights. And I don't know why, but that night, for some reason, when it was time for me to go to bed, I was almost in tears having to walk past that window. There was something in me, and I don't know what it was, that just knew if I looked out that window, I was going to see something. And I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to know. And that night, like I said, I was almost in tears. I wanted to crawl up the stairs that night, but I didn't. I have a bad knee. I can't crawl. But I didn't want to go up the steps. I did not want to pass that window. I just knew it was there. And I didn't have to go up the stairs. There was a bedroom downstairs, but in my brain, in my rationale at that time was, well, if I sleep down here, if it gets in the house, I have no time to get away. At least if I'm upstairs, maybe I have a chance of getting away. I'll hear it coming. And that was my rationale. So with every being I had in my body, I just forced myself to go up the stairs. But when I got there, I turned off all the lights in the house. Normally I would leave the lights on up to walk up the staircase so I wouldn't trip and fall. But that night I shut off all the lights. And when I walked past the window, I blocked my field of vision, and I just boogied up that as fast as my knee would take me. And I was just in bed, just terrified.
Did you ever at any point during all of these nights and days of fear and all the weird things that were happening, did you ever reflect back on that image in the window when you were younger?
At that time, I didn't. All I knew was, and maybe it was subconscious, to know, don't look out the window because of what happened back then. At the time, it wasn't a conscious thought, but maybe it was happening subconscious. I don't know. But no, it did not. That image didn't come to mind when all this was happening.
Okay.
It wasn't until later on where I started connecting the dots. And I was like, oh, that's why I was so scared of the window. But it's like I said, so that the last night was the 25th that I had the terror. I ended up leaving on the 28th, which was planned anyways. That was the time I was going home. I was grateful to get out of there. And I had anxiety for a while. Even when I got home, I was just still kind of scared at nighttime, even though where I live, in the city, nothing ever happens. It just took a while for me to I don't even want to say come to terms with it, but to get that fear, that anticipation of nightfall and what was it going to bring. It took me a while to get over that. And because of everything that happened during that time frame up in Maine, that's when I started delving into this whole Bigfoot world. I'm like, I got to know what it is, and I need to know what it's like. You know, when I was up there, I was coming to the rationale of that's what it was. Um, Part of me didn't want to believe it because, it is supposed to be a mythical creature. And so I'm like, no, it can't be. It can't be. Same thing at the window that night back when I was a teenager. Oh, it can't be. It can't be type of thing. And when I started delving into all the, finding Bigfoot, um, uh, Expedition Bigfoot, all the Bigfoot shows. I started watching documentaries on TV about Bigfoot, whatever I could get my hands on. And then I started learning about how they slap houses. I started learning about how they will leave gifts. I started learning about all that stuff. And then, like I said, all these dots started getting connected and the light bulb started coming on. I'm like, wow, wow. It really was. And, up until that point, you've always heard, or I have always heard that, you should be scared of Sasquatch. They're going to kill you. They're going to harm you. They're going to drag you off into the woods. You'll never be seen again. It was something to be fearful of. And so that probably fed into the fear I was feeling. Now I'm not saying don't be afraid of it. But that's all I knew was the bad side, and now that I've got some education under my belt, well, a lot of education under my belt, I'm sure I probably have thousands and thousands of hours of learning of this because I had to know what was going on. And like I said, now it's led me to actually going out into the woods and actively looking for evidence and searching for them and this, that, and the other. In hindsight, man, I kicked myself. And I didn't know it, but I had such a cool experience. Like I said, at the time, you could not have told me otherwise what a blessing I was getting. Who, out of the blue, has a Sasquatch come to them and start gifting them and interacting with them and trying to interact them in a nice way. A lot of people, they get interactions in the woods and they get rocks thrown at them or screamed at and they run off and they're terrified. And even though that's what I was feeling, I was misreading the whole situation. That Sasquatch was wanting to interact with me in a nice way. And I didn't know that at the time. Now, this is hindsight looking back. And man, what an opportunity I missed. If I would have known then what I know now, you would have believed I would have been out there gifting with it. I would have been out there, trying to see it. My whole mind shift, my whole mind has shifted in how I view them now. At the time, totally read the situation wrong, totally petrified. Now would be totally different.
Did you ever go back up there and see what you could find?
I haven't. Just because I wanted to go to someplace new. There was after that situation, it was a little small town there in Southwest Harbor, and it was a great, beautiful, lovely place. But in April, everything is still shut down. So there was like no restaurants, there was nothing to do. So it was quite boring. I used to have to do long field trips, a couple hours just to go do stuff. And so that's why I've never gone back, because there just at that time of year wasn't anything to do. And that's, the only time of year well, not the only time of year I get away. I have to do it in the spring and the fall because of the allergies. And I just haven't made it back up there.
Did you happen to ask the owner about anything regarding Bigfoot in that area?
No, I didn't say one word to anybody. I didn't say anything to the owner. Just because I didn't want to be looked at like I was crazy, the typical response. But golly, part of me thinks they've got to know, but I just find it highly strange that a complete stranger into this house, that one would just instantly start interacting with me if it didn't already feel comfortable interacting with people. You know what I'm saying? So surely they've got to know, but I never said a word. And I was the only house in that area that was occupied. All the other houses were still closed down for the winter. People hadn't come back yet. So I was the only house there on that little peninsula that was, had activity, had people in it. So maybe that's why it was coming to me. I don't know. But no, I never said a word to the people.
You said that now you have begun doing your own research. How long did it take between that incident and the time period that you really wanted to go out and explore and have your own experiences with Sasquatch?
Well, like I said, that happened back in 23 was when I was up in Maine when all that craziness happened. And it was after that I started, like I said, watching all the videos, learning as much as I could. And it took me a while, and I still go back and forth on this, on being scared or not scared. But for the longest time, I was still scared. So going out and looking for them really wasn't an option up until this past October. This past October, I went up to get away from my allergies once again. I went up to the Pacific Northwest. I felt that after all this time of educating myself on Sasquatch, going to several Bigfoot seminars, I thought, okay, let's just go to the Mecca, so to speak. And so when I was there, I'm like, you know what? I think I want to try. I think I'm brave enough now to go out and try. And I started going out and seeing what I could find.
Did you go by yourself?
I did. And to this day, I still go out by myself.
And what have you discovered or experienced from those excursions alone in the woods looking for Sasquatch?
I how do I answer that? I feel I've had some good success. I'm not releasing any of that type of stuff yet. I'm still trying to, I'm probably going to end up making some videos to put out on YouTube about that. But I still have got to put that all together. But I do have some recordings that were interesting. I actually, when I was out in Washington, there was a Bigfoot seminar over in Yakima that I drove over to and met with some people from the BFRO, and they got some of my audio recordings they're listening to. So I started off actually doing quite well on accident. So we'll see what comes of that. Like I said, I'll be releasing some videos of some of the experiences I had. But going out there by yourself in the woods, I've been in the woods my whole life. Living here in Arkansas, we're in the Ozark Mountains. From the time I was probably 4 or 5 years old, I've been in the woods. So the woods really don't scare me. The animals around here don't really scare me. Now we have venomous snakes; those scare me. But besides that, I have no issues going into the woods. Now I have a little bit of an issue going into the woods because you hear stories of good interactions with Sasquatch, and you hear stories of bad interactions with Sasquatch. And just knowing you never know which one you're going to, if you encounter, which one type it's going to be, that's a little bit scary. So when I'm out there, I always have my camera running just in case something happens. I always tell people where I'm going to be. And when I leave the area, I always text them and let them know, hey, I'm out, I'm all good. So it's a little scary being out there by yourself. But I really don't have any choice at this time. There's nobody else to go out with me. So
you go out in the woods, Arkansas is pretty plentiful with a lot of Bigfoot stories. I've interviewed a lot of people from Arkansas, so I know you're down there. Yeah. So have you had experiences then on your own in Arkansas as well?
I have.
Are you saving those for your YouTube channel as well?
There's one that's already out there. I already have one posted on my YouTube channel.
Well,
Um,
give us the name of your YouTube channel. I'm sure people will want to go see that.
okay. So it's called Squatch You Doing. Instead of what you doing, squatch you doing. And they can find that. I have 3 videos out there right now. One of them is one of them I spoke of today about my sighting. And then the other 2 is about the story that happened out here. I guess it was in November of this year. I was out there by myself in a spot and something happened and I made a video and it's out there on YouTube at Squat
Can
You
you
Doing.
can you tell us about that experience that
Sure.
happened right there where you live?
Yeah. Yeah. So I was at the border of Arkansas and Missouri. And it was up there. I'll just say it's at the White River. I don't want to give the exact location, but it was on the White River. And I was out there alone. And I had pulled up and the area they had already blocked off. So I couldn't park in the area. So I parked on the outside by the road and I parked my car. I get out and I instantly heard a tree knock. And I was like, nah, that can't be. And so I took a couple steps and then from another direction, I heard another one. And I was like, son of a biscuit. And then behind me, I heard a third one. And I was like, so that was 3 tree knocks all around me. And I was like, no, this cannot be. I mean, it was just a freak place for me to stop and look. I had never been to that spot before, but it had the pine trees, it had the water. And I was like, let's take a look, you know? And instantly, like I said, 3 tree knocks. And I was like, oh, all righty, well, here we go. And so I've been told, from everything I've listened to and been taught that they don't like cameras. So I wasn't filming at that point because I'm like, if they're already knocking, maybe something might happen here. And even though I wanted it to get it on camera, the likelihood of me getting it on camera, I felt was not practical because usually, when you bring out a camera, stuff stops. And so I'm like, okay, I'm not going to record yet. So I start walking a particular area because there was a mound of debris over there. And I just started walking that way because there was dirt over there. And I wanted to see if I could see any footprints. And the second I started going over there, in rapid succession, 3 knocks, bam, bam, bam. I mean, fast. And I was like, you could tell the intensity that they didn't want me going that direction. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I'm sorry. I'll go a different direction. And I know that sounds weird to people to be talking out, but if you've ever gone out looking for Sasquatch, you talk into the woods. You try to communicate. So I was like, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know I was heading in a direction I wasn't supposed to be going. I'll go this direction. And so I just headed off the other direction thinking, holy cannoli, holy cannoli, holy cannoli. And so I'm walking, I'm just kind of meandering. I don't know where to go, but I'm like, you know what? Let me go over to where the river is. And hopefully there'll be a sandy bank that I can look for footprints. Because here in Arkansas, we have a lot of rock. And not every place you go can you see, it's usually rock. So, but sometimes you can find sandy banks. So I'm like, let me walk over here to the river and see if it has a sandy bank. And if so, I'm gonna go down there and see if I can find any footprints. So I walk over and from where I am, the river is, down below. And so I look over and I'm like, oh yeah, it is sandy. So I take the little trail down and I'm looking down and I'm walking, the river is to my left and this big old bank hill is right next to me. So I have like this little path I can be walking down looking for footprints. And I'm not videoing at this point because there was nothing to video in my mind. I'm like, okay, I'm just walking, looking down. That's not real too thrilling. And so I'm looking and I kind of get to, there's like a dead end and I get there and I look up to see a den that was woven out of like bamboo. We have bamboo in places that grow on the shores of the river. And it was a perfectly formed den that you could see into. But there was a couple of bamboo that were like kind of sprung that kind of made it blend in a little bit, but there was no question that there was a den there. I was like, oh, wow. So I literally picked up my camera because I had on a selfie stick, and I hit play, and I took 2 steps to start to video it. And because you could clearly see the den, and as I'm approaching, I see bones at the entrance of the den. I'm like, there's bones. Now, in the video, you see me do this. Well, you don't see me do that. You see the camera do this. And because right when I got close and I leaned into the den, I hear behind me. And that's when I turn. That's in the video. You see the camera move. And I look and I see a branch going through the air, hitting the tops of the trees as it's going over. It arches and it goes down and it lands into the river, and a huge splash happens. And I just sat there going, and then you instantly hear me in the video. And like I said, if you go to my YouTube page, you'll see it. I have the footage there. I said, I think I got to go. And from, years of, attending seminars and watching documentaries and all that, to me, I took that as I was at a spot they didn't want me at. And that was their way of telling me, you better get out of Dodge. I didn't take it as aggression. At one point, if I was in Maine, before I knew what I knew now, I would have taken it as aggression. I took it as, hey, you've got too close. You got to get out of there. So in the video, you hear me say, okay, I'm leaving. I'm sorry. I didn't know I was at a place I shouldn't be. I'm leaving. But then I'm sitting there thinking to myself, holy cannoli, holy cannoli, holy cannoli. What am I going to do? I'm here. I'm by myself. I'm in essence, I'm trapped, because to the right of me, to the right of me now, when I turn around, the river's to my right. It's dead end to the back there. I cannot go behind. The bank of the river is twice as high as I am. I can't climb that. The only way to go is the way I came. And that's where the branch came flying from. And so in my head, I'm thinking, oh, crud, I've got to go that way. And that's in essence where it is. That's where the branch was thrown. And that's where the trail to get back up. And I was just like, I have no choice. I have no choice. And so I said, okay, I'm leaving. I got it. I'm going to go, but you're going to have to move because that's the way I came. And I said, if you've been watching me, you know that. So you got to get out of the way. So I'm sitting here talking to this Sasquatch, hoping it understands me, feeling like a fool, because your rational brain is thinking there's nobody here. Who are you talking to? But, and everything I've read and studied, everybody talks to them out, So there I am talking. And in the video, and I said in the video, I'm going to leave this running because I didn't know what was going to happen. Maybe once again, I was misinterpreting the situation. Maybe it was aggression. Maybe they were just waiting for me to get to a spot and, whatever. And so I was just like, oh, please, 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 please. So I'm just walking, trying to keep my cool, because I've also heard from teachers that sometimes they test you to see what your reaction is going to be. If you're going to run off or if you'll stand your ground, are they testing me? And so I'm like, Angie, just be cool, don't run. I can't run anyways because of my knee, but I was just like, just be cool, be cool. So I'm filming, I'm walking. And when I get to the area that I have to go up the path, that's when I finally really get a good look of the branch that was thrown. And it's at least 6 feet long. It was a branch, huge. And it had all these little arms coming off of it. And so and I know it was thrown because, well, for one, I saw it flying through the air. And then as it was flying through the air, its branches that it had was hitting the branches of the tree it was going over. And like I said, then I saw it arc, and then it went down and splashed into the water. And in the video, there's a tree that is kind of leaning over the river. And somebody was like, well, what? It could have just come from that tree. And I said, no, it didn't come from that tree. If it would have come from that tree, yeah, there would have been, like a crack, 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 but it would have fallen straight down. This was totally different. It was going over that tree, and its branches were hitting that tree's branches on its way over. And then, like I said, then it arched and then it landed into the water. So I know without a doubt it was not that tree. Now, in the video, at the moment when it happened, I kept saying, I think it came from that tree. I think it fell from that tree. I don't know. I don't know where it came from. My brain was a little bit frazzled at the moment. But when I calmed down and was thinking about it, I'm like, no, man, it arced. It went over that tree. And so I know exactly that branch was thrown. And so as I was walking up the walkway, I'm just still filming because I don't know what I'm walking into. So I'm just filming. I get to the top. Nothing happened. I get to the top and I'm walking around trying to get my breath because it was quite steep. And I'm thinking, okay, I could have just beelined it to the car, but I'm like, no, Angie, stand your ground, don't show that you're scared. Maybe this is just a test. Just get your breath and then just figure out what you're going to do. So I was up there and I was just kind of pacing. I was just kind of walking around, getting my breath, still filming because still don't know what's going to happen. And then at that point, I'm like, all right, they gave me a warning. I'll heed the warning. I won't push them. Apparently I've already pushed them because I had the fast tree knock and now they're throwing something at me. So I'm like, all right, don't want to wear out my welcome. I'm out of here. So I go home, I tell my husband all about this crazy thing that happened, made a video, and I learned a huge lesson making this video. I didn't scrub the video like I should have. When I say scrub the video, I mean go frame by frame. I've learned that by watching other people who go out into the woods. And so I'm like, gosh, why didn't I do that? So I had already put out on YouTube the first video. And then I was like, you know what? I never really went frame by frame through that. So I started going frame by frame through it. And then I was like, oh, snap. Oh, snap. There's 2 frames in that video that I believe you can see the Sasquatch in. I'm just going to put it out there. And like I said, it was totally inadvertently that it got recorded. At the time, I didn't see it. I never saw anything when I was out there. But in the video, when I was doing the frame by frame and I saw what I thought I saw, I zoomed in on it. And it's not one of those type of things where, people see faces and trees. It's not, and I don't know the exact term. I can't say it right. It's like paranoia or something like that. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to see if other people see this. So I ran with that screenshot. I didn't circle it. I didn't do anything. I just took the shot and I went to my husband. I said, do you see anything in this picture? And he goes, there's something right there. I was like, so then I went and I got the other screenshot of the other image. I said, do you see anything in this picture? He's like, there's something right there. I'm like, I think so too. And so I did a short, which is on my YouTube channel as well. And in that short, I post those 2 pictures. Now, yeah, I got them circled. I know a lot of people get irritated when people circle things. So if y'all want to see it without it circled, I can post that too, but it's circled. And you can see definitely there's 2 pictures. You can see clearly a form in each picture.
Okay, so from the time you got to this wooded area, went down this long, steep path, walked along the water, kind of that kind of cliff-like area, and got back to the den, and then you headed back. Where were those pictures in contrast to the story that you've told? Where do you think those showed up?
Okay, so the one image is when I'm standing at the river's edge, and I pan the camera. And I don't know exactly, I'd have to go back and see like what minute it was in the video. I haven't even looked at that. But I was looking up the bluff to figure out how I was going to get up there, if there was another way besides the one I just came down on. And as I'm looking up, one of them is looking up from the river to the top of the bluff, for lack of a better word, the top of the bluff. The other one was, I was so close to this thing and I didn't even know it. I was standing next to a picnic table, and with I would say less than 4 feet from me, there's a bush, and you can see a form behind that bush. And at the time, I had so much adrenaline going and I was just kind of pacing. I never even paid attention, and I walked right past it.
So this is at the top, not far from where you parked?
It, so from where I parked, it's about, I don't know, 20, 30 feet. No, I'm sorry, not feet, yards.
But it's on the top, not at it was. Did you film that when you first got there, do you think, at the picnic table, or was it after? Was it after you returned?
It was after. Both of them were after. Both of the images I caught were after the branch was thrown. And it was one of them, like I said, was on my way up when I was walking, and I was just kind of filming and talking, and I was just letting the camera pan around, and was trying to figure out how I was gonna get out of there. And I caught something up on the bluff looking down at me behind a bush. And then, like I said, then I finally got to the top. And then when I got to the top, I was pacing, kind of trying to catch my breath, trying to figure out what I was going to do. I still had the camera rolling because I didn't know what to expect. And as I was pacing and had the camera rolling, I walked right past a bush within, like I said, between 4 to 5 feet away. It was behind, you can see an image of something kneeling down, and its arm, you'll be able to see it. You can make it out clearly.
So it wasn't in a standing position. It was kneeling down and kind of behind the bush, kind of hiding.
Correct. Yeah. So both of them, it was kneeling down, and you can see its arm. It's like when you take a knee in sports, you have one foot, on the ground regular, but the other one's on its knee, and you're like leaning on your leg with your arm. You're taking a knee. That's what it was like. And you could see the outline of its head, its shoulders. You can see an arm. You can see how the knee is bent and how it's resting on its arm is resting on its knee. You can make out the whole outline of the whole shadow, and a little bit of a brow ridge and a little bit of a head. Oh, you can, I see it clearly. My husband, bless his heart, sometimes I show him things and he doesn't see it. He goes, oh, there's clearly something right there. He saw it black and white.
Did you smell anything when you were up there, or hear any kind of grunts or howls or anything like that?
No vocalizations, no smells. I have never smelt it. And all the times I've been around it, I've never smelt it. I don't know why.
This location is not all that far from you. Have you been back over there?
I have not. That happened in early November, with the Thanksgiving happening and then into Christmas. And then I just haven't got back out there.
Are you planning to go?
I am. Right now we're about to get snow tomorrow. It's about, 20 degrees right now. So it's a little cold, but as soon as it warms up a little bit, let's say maybe in the 40s, I'll get back out there. It's a little too cold otherwise.
Exactly. I don't blame you. It's a little cold up here in Missouri too. Not that far from you. So yeah, well, that is encouraging, that you've had so many experiences. It's encouraging that you had the courage to get out there, and to get out there by yourself is just amazing. And it sounds like you're kind of a magnet for these things at this point. So.
It's funny you say that, because my husband has a little thing he says about me. He goes, if you ever want to see any animals, go with Angie. He goes, she always sees them. So he calls me Snow White, because, we'll be in Alaska and we'll go out on an excursion, and I'm like, hey, there's a bear, there's a moose, there's this, other people like, oh, I didn't see that. I didn't see that. So I in a way, I sort of have a thing with animals. I don't know. It's kind of weird, but I don't know. But I think more the case is, I'm looking for their habitat. And they say that they like women, and especially they like people who are by themselves. It's less intimidating, it's less scary for them. And so here I am, the perfect perfect storm. I'm by myself, I'm a woman, I'm totally not a threat. So I think that's maybe why they feel a little more comfortable. I don't know. That's just all speculation. I don't know.
Do you get any kind of a feeling or a sense when before something happens where you do have some evidence that they're around, do you get a feeling beforehand, or is it just happens out of the blue for you?
Sometimes I've had weird feelings before things have happened, and other times they just happen out of the blue. So it's a mixed bag.
Okay. Well, I thank you, Angie, for coming on today and talking to me and telling me these stories. You just have some fascinating experiences, and you do a great job sharing those. So I hope the audience loves them, and I'm going to encourage them. Once again, give us your YouTube channel because they'll want to go over there and look at those.
Sure. It's called Squat You Doing. So it's SQUAT apostrophe. I'm sorry. SQ. Just type in Squat You Doing. You'll find it.
What you doing?
So early.
Very good. And if all else fails, you can always come to Bigfoot Cryptid Midwest group, and because I know you're on there too. That's how I found you. So
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Well, I'm going to go ahead and end our interview today, and you have a great day. Stay warm. Let
Thank
us
you
know
too.
when you get out there in the field. Post us some things on the group because I love to hear about it.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot.